The USA won, Jamaica 0. For the first time in 11 years, we go away in CONCACAF and beat a top 6 team. 11 years, guys. It wasn't the prettiest game. It was a very scrappy game on a terrible field. But against a good opponent, we got the job done. And for so long, getting the job done was such a difficult thing to do, right? And we just couldn't do it, that this is a major win, performance aside. I'm going to break it all down for you. What up, guys? I'm Pete Douthit, host of the 11 Yanks Show. Welcome to my channel. Unfortunately, I'm not in my studio recording here in my hotel room. I was on set yesterday, which is why I wasn't able to do the post game or the live watch along with Tack. Apologies, but work is work. I have to do it. I was able to watch the game when I got home last night, and gosh, it was scrappy. It was hard to watch at times. But there was a lot of positives to take away, and I think the context of that game really is important. Before we go any further, though, smash that like button, and if you're new, smash subscribe. The U.S. is on a very fun trajectory between now and 2026, and I'm excited to cover this team and to continue to cover this team as hopefully we continue to make improvements going forward. Thank you to BetOnline for sponsoring this video. Believe is the code that you can use. All right, guys, so I think we need to... I've seen a lot on Twitter about this game, and a lot of people were unhappy with it. But for me, the result is really all that matters in terms of this game. The last time we beat this team, like I said, the last time we beat a top 6 team in CONCACAF away from home was in 2013 in World Cup qualifying in the hexagonal. Jurgen Klinsmann was the coach, and we beat Jamaica, in fact, 2-1 in Kingston. Josie Altidore and Brad Evans scored those goals. 11 years, guys. It's been 11 years since we've really done this. By winning this game, Pochettino has already, in 3 games, equaled Greg Berhalter's record of winning only 1 away game in his 5.5-year tenure. So this is a win. And it was a win particularly because we scrapped our way to this win. And one of the things that people have complained about with this team was the lack of scrappiness and the lack of intensity and the apparent lack of willingness to fight for the shirt. We didn't see that yesterday. We definitely saw marked improvements in terms of this team showing that they were able to get an ugly win, that they were going to fight for every ball, that they were going to try to win every duel. I thought we did a pretty good job in our pressing. Let's just jump right into the positives here. The off-ball work rate was great. One of the reasons I think people have fallen out of love with this team is because of when we lose the ball, there doesn't seem to be a lot of passion to win it back. There doesn't seem to be that intensity and that hunger. And I'm not going to say off one game that is different now or that's changed, but we saw a step in the right direction. I do think we have to keep in mind that in their formative years, this team was coached by one of the most apathetic human beings I've ever met, or, haven't met him, but seen. And I do think that 5.5 years during your formative years of that sort of being drilled into your DNA can impact your mentality as a team. And I think it's going to take some time for Pochettino to undo some of the terrible mindsets that were instilled into this team. And so I do want to see it more consistently. But we saw in this game a step in the right direction. And I think that was very much a positive. Defensive transitions. It goes hand in hand with what I said before, but when we lost the ball, particularly in the second half when we were defending that lead, there was a real willingness to get everybody behind the ball and quickly. In the past, at times, we've seen this team lose the ball and then a couple of the attackers stand around and watch and sort of let the defenders figure it out. I didn't see that as much. There was a little bit of it still at times, but generally speaking, when we lost the ball, everybody was getting back behind it. And if not, they were harassing in a pincher movement, right? So, for example, if McKennie would lose the ball and a Jamaican player would, dribble upfield, he might be being closed down by a Tanner Tessman or a Malik Tillman, but McKennie would come from behind and put pressure as well. And so that actually led to a lot of Jamaican turnovers due to our pressure. I thought the pressing was generally quite good, if at times still a little bit uncoordinated. I think it's going to take some time to really get those pressing triggers and pressing traps set properly, the way that Pochettino wants to. But under Greg Berhalter, we had sort of a sometimes press. I thought the pressing was definitely better and more consistent. So that was good to see. Another thing that I thought was a positive was when we were building out of the back, and it was sometimes a positive, sometimes a negative. But when we were able to build through their press, we were able to create numbers up situations in the final third. Now, passing out of the back and playing out of the back is still a weakness of this team. And it was especially hard to do it on a field like that, which was terrible. But when we did manage to do it effectively, particularly in the first half, we were quite good at creating numbers up situations in their final third. Now, we didn't always take advantage of those numbers up situations. We created 4 clear chances in this game, and we finished one of them, right? The other ones were A-Rob, Pulisic, and late on Brandon Vasquez. When we were able to do it, it looked really good. But, and here I'll jump just sort of into the negatives, at times, a lot of sloppy giveaways trying to build out of the back under that Jamaican pressure. And I think that balance between ideology, between style and substance is going to be really crucial for Pochettino going forward, because even though McKennie and Tim Ream are okay on the ball, they're not great on the ball, and Tim Ream's clearly on the decline. We'll discuss that as well. But A-Rob and Scally aren't fantastic in the build-out either. We know Turner is not great in the build-out. And at times, often it was playing it into midfield. We'd play it into the feet of a player who was heavily, heavily marked. And so when it did work, it looked great. When it didn't work, it caused some pretty bad turnovers that Jamaica didn't have the quality to turn into really good chances. But we need to be careful of it and wary of that possibility. One of the other negatives is that this back line still has issues. I mean, on the penalty that, Jamaica won, and thankfully Matt Turner saved, Joe Scally gives the ball away quite unnecessarily, again, trying to build out of the back, but it was a poor decision. And then Tim Ream is beat way too easily by Shamar Nicholson, and so is Mark McKenzie. McKenzie actually challenges for the ball and loses the duel altogether. And then Matt Turner comes out and makes a completely unnecessary dive at his feet. He could have come out and made himself big, tried to push Shamar Nicholson wide, got somebody on the line, narrowed his angle, narrowed that shooting angle. Instead, he went rushing in and unfortunately gave away the penalty. Thankfully, he was able to make the save to kind of make up for it. But this back line is still very questionable to me. I think that we really need to move on from Tim Ream, at least as a starter. I mean, he's 37 years old now. He has been culpable on quite a, against today, he was culpable on the penalty. He had another, what should have frankly been a penalty with his arm in the second half of this game. He was culpable on Mexico's first goal, has had multiple giveaways since Copa America that were completely unnecessary, has been beat. He's clearly in decline. He's clearly aging. There's a reason he's back in MLS. If you want him in the roster to play that sort of Miles Robinson role, if he doesn't really need to play, but he's there for his leadership, I'm fine with that for now, but I'm not so sure we should start him against Jamaica at home. I think put Austin Trusty there or Chris Richards if you think he's ready. If you don't think he's ready, I would rather see Austin Trusty there right now. It's not only that he's old, it's that he's clearly in decline and that is affecting his performances for the national team. But overall, the back line still needs a lot of work. And I think it's still our biggest weakness going forward, backline and goalkeeper, particularly center backs and goalkeeper. Scally, we know, is in our starting right back, but even he wasn't terrible apart from that giveaway. That backline still needs a lot of work. Hopefully Chris Richards can, maybe play with Mark McKenzie. Maybe we give a look to Austin Trusty, but we need to figure it out, and soon. The other thing that I would say is a negative is that despite having possession for long parts of this game, we still were not able to consistently create chances. And again, I don't want to be too negative here because I think the context is important. But if you're going to look for, what could we have done better in? Certainly that's one. We created 3 chances in the opening 10 minutes. And then for the rest of the game, really only created 1 good chance. And that was late for Brandon Vasquez, which he fluffed. So, creating better chances, again, is somewhere where we can improve. And I think we want to see a much better performance at home on Monday. And I think we will, but we need to see better than that. Overall, the big takeaway from this game, from this performance, is the 3 points away. And that needs to be the standard. This is not any different than what I said when Berhalter was in charge, right? With this player pool, with this team, winning away should be happening more often than not. I'm not saying we should win every game away. There are times where you draw or even lose, but I think more often we shouldn't be celebrating an away win in CONCACAF. Let me put it that way. The fact that I'm celebrating it because it hasn't happened for 11 years speaks to the levels of expectation of this team. With this player pool, with this roster, with this coach, those expectations need to continue to rise. We need to have high standards and high demands for this team and be vociferous when they don't meet them. Okay, so good. You got that win away. It's not difficult to do. I'm just going to say that because for years, the media, oh, guys, a valuable point away. It's hard. The fields are rough. No, I'm sorry. I don't buy that. With the quality that we have, we should be able to get those wins away. I'm not saying you have to dominate all 90 minutes and look like, 2011 Barcelona, but getting a win away in CONCACAF should become the norm. It should be the expectation. Okay, I'm sorry that we can't play England and France and Brazil or even Japan in friendlies as much as we like because of the way that FIFA, and all these confederations have set up Nations League and World Cup qualifying. But what we can do, where we can find these marginal improvements, is winning away in CONCACAF. And I'm glad we did that. Let's jump into player ratings now. I'm going to start with Matt Turner. Matt Turner, I give a 7.52. He would have gotten more if he hadn't given away that penalty, but he saved it, so well done there. I thought he was generally okay with his feet, had a good balance at times of when to play out of the back and when to go long with it. Also played sweeper-keeper several times, once with his head, once with his feet coming off his line in a transition moment to clear the ball, so that was good to see. It was a better performance from Matt Turner. Really the only sort of, I guess you could say, glitch against him would be the penalty giveaway. And then in that second half, there was a corner that I do wonder, it was actually on that Tim Ream handball where I do wonder if he could have caught it instead of just sort of awkwardly pushing it back into a danger zone. It was a bit of a spinning ball, so I don't want to be too harsh on him there, but I do wonder if he could have done better. Overall, I'd say it was a good professional performance from Matt Turner, 7.5. Joe Scally, I'm giving a 6.2 because he was outside of that one giveaway, which led to the penalty. I thought he was pretty reliable and pretty steady defensively, including at times when A-Rob would push high up the field and that back line would kind of shift to the left with Tim Ream almost playing as a faux left back, Mark McKenzie drifting more central, and then Joe Scally would sort of drift inside. I thought they handled that movement in and out of possession quite well, depending on Anthony Robinson's positioning. And so I thought Scally did okay as sort of playing sometimes as a faux center back and helping to keep Shamar Nicholson quiet. Mark McKenzie, I'm going to give a 6 because I thought he was better overall in this game, but was still very much culpable on that penalty. He also had one moment where he turned away from pressure in the box on a ball that was played in behind. He got to it first, turned away from pressure and tried to build, but ended up giving the ball away. For me, he maybe should have tapped that one back to Matt Turner and then let us go long from there. So that was a decision-making moment where I thought he could have done better. But Mark McKenzie is 25 and has just joined Toulouse and is doing quite well there in the French league. So I'm hoping he can continue to take steps as a defender. Maybe he isn't the tallest, isn't always the quickest, but I thought he was overall good today, apart from one or two moments. Ream was, I'm going to say it, poor. If you are the most experienced player on this team, I have high expectations for you. And if you think that at 37 years old and playing in MLS, you should still be on the national team, then you need to bring it. And he did not. Beat way too easily on the penalty. We got very lucky. He gave away a completely unnecessary penalty, elbowing the ball away. It was away from his body. We're lucky we didn't give away a penalty there. We really are. Tim Ream, like I said earlier, I'm not going to harp on it, but it's time to move on. And I would encourage Pochettino to play somebody else at home, Richards or Trusty. It's time to move on, guys. It really is. Anthony Robinson, steady, reliable, not perfect. Could have maybe done better on the chance that he had in the first half. straight at the keeper. I think he tried to dribble it. The field was a bit rough, and he never really got a hold of that ball. I don't think he ever really had control of it. Wasn't a huge threat in the attack, but I thought generally was quite steady and reliable. Was caught out a few times defensively, but some of that was on the way that we were set up, and not so much on him. I'll give him a 6 there. Tessman was a 4. He was quite poor in that first half. Quite poor on multiple occasions. He had a few bright moments that make you think that's, if we can get that Tessman more often, then he's great. But I just thought he was a bit overwhelmed by the pace of the game today. And I don't think that's something you can be saying against Jamaica. Some of his decision-making was poor as well. I'm giving McKennie a 6. His all-action style. Real quick on Tessman, he was better in the second half before he was pulled. So maybe I'll give him a 4.5. There's promise and potential with Tessman. I'm not going to cover Johnny because he was pulled off so early, although he looked pretty good until then. McKennie gets a 6. Very much a McKennie performance. All-action style on both sides of the ball. He's not going to create always the way you want him to because he's not a creative player, and I still don't think he's back to his best yet. He doesn't look fully sharp or fit to me yet. That's still something I want to see more from him. Pulisic is a 7.5, assisted on Pepi's goal and was generally a threat throughout the game. A little bit whiny at times, which Pulisic can do this. Yes, he gets pushed around, and his reaction is just very whiny at times, and I still don't like it. It just sets the wrong tone. Give it back to him. Don't go whining to the referee. Like, you can address it with the referee, but sometimes his poor me attitude about it gets a little bit annoying. But overall, I'd say it was a pretty decent performance from Pulisic. He drifted very central to help, I think, create from the middle because Poch knows McKennie can't really do that. But he was threatening throughout. And by the way, another positive was when he was pushed in the second half a lot. They really went after him. The team really stood up for him. And that's something we haven't always seen from this team. So it was good to see that. Ricardo Pepi gets an 8. Good finish for the goal. Was a good outlet up top. Maybe doesn't win a ton of physical duels, but was technically sound and a good outlet in transition for us. Well done to him. Getting an away goal, pushing Fuller and Balogun for that spot. That's what we want to see from Ricardo Pepi. And I love what he said before the game. I don't quote me on this, but I believe he said something to the effect of, when I hear, oh, he's a super sub, I want to punch someone or punch a wall. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, so look it up yourself. Maybe I'll put it in the comments as clarification. But that's what I want from our guys. Some personality, some hunger, some desire. Like these blasé comments to the press. Yeah, I think we just need to go out there and they're going to give us a tough game and we need to show up and perform and hopefully take advantage of the opportunities that we know we're going to create. Like that, I hate when players come out and do that. Say something that matters. Say something that gets my attention. Say something that makes me feel something. You want America to fall in love with this sport? They need to fall in love with the guys who play it. And America falls in love with personality. So good on Pepi for coming out and saying something like that. And he delivered, right? On the field. Yeah, I don't want to be a super sub. I think I deserve to be a starter. And now on the field, I'm going to show you why. And he's doing that for PSV as well. So good on Pepi. 8 for him. Musa gets a 5 because while I think playing on the wing, he's largely ineffective in the final third wherever he plays. We know this about Musa. There will be moments where you think he can look threatening, and then we get into the final third, and it's either a poor cross or a poor pass or a bad decision or an over dribble. And I think there is a future. This has been the same Musa for 4 years. I think there's a future where Musa is at best a depth piece on the wing and a depth piece even at right back, but not a starter for us. And to be honest, with Weah coming back for the home leg, I think Weah should definitely start on the right and Musa can be on the bench. Now, if Johnny can't go, if Johnny can't play, they're saying it's, evaluation, maybe not. They're not sure yet. It was sort of precautionary sub. If Johnny can't play, then we'll probably have to put Musa there. Musa, Tessman, and although, you could put Busio and Tessman there as well. I thought Busio looked pretty sharp when he came on. Busio, Tessman, and McKennie could play in midfield. I'd bench Musa, honestly, I think. But I want to give him credit for his defensive work rate. That was very important, including a last-ditch tackle that would have been a Jamaica goal had Musa not been there. Okay, so, and I thought against the ball, he was quite good, actually. So, ineffective on the ball, but very good defensively. So, credit to him there. Musa is, we'll talk more about him in the future, but I've been saying for a while now, him and Tillman are guys that are really, it's like, we need to see improvement. It's the different story. And by the way, I'm giving Tillman a 3.5 because although he was playing out of position, he did nothing except recycle possession most of the time. There was very few line-breaking passes, very little playmaking from deep. It was very basic, very passive. That was poor from Tillman. But Musa and Tillman have different issues because Tillman plays quite well for his club and then just doesn't show up for the U.S., which has led some people to understandably question if he really wants to play for the U.S. And it is in Tillman's power to change this. I think this next Jamaica game, if he starts or plays, he really needs to put in a strong performance because the evidence is stacking up against Tillman when he wears the red, white, and blue. Okay? For Musa, he's not progressing as a player for Milan or for the U.S. And I think that's really the question for him. I like that Poch is using him on the wing because at least, you know, he's not responsible for building out of the back. He can't pass the ball consistently well with any range. And so at least you take advantage of his dribbling in a wide area. The problem is he can dribble well. And there are times where you would see he would beat his man on the right. But then again, the decision-making or the execution in the final third is just poor, poor, poor. He's 22 now. He's not a young player in that sense anymore. And, he's the same age as Pepi. He's actually older than Pepi. He's older than Scally. And, it's time for Musa, for us to probably put Musa in the category of where he belongs, which is for right now, until he shows us otherwise, a depth piece. Tillman, same issue. You need to start showing up in the red, white, and blue. Otherwise, I don't think you can criticize Musa's effort. The endeavor with Musa is always there. But with Tillman at times, you certainly can. He looks half asleep. He looks like he doesn't want to play for this team. And if that keeps up, I would be fine with Pochettino leaving him out of rosters altogether until he proves otherwise that he wants to play for this team. Okay? I don't think I missed. Oh, Brandon Vasquez, poor. Came on, was not a good outlet, missed the only chance he should have scored. It was a soft goal, a soft shot straight at the keeper. I know he was fouled, which led to Holgate's second yellow, but that was the only good moment from him. He looked pretty good against Mexico in his 20-minute cameo, but his cameo today was extremely poor. So I'm giving him a 3 as well. Pochettino, giving him a solid 8. Got the starting lineup right, in my opinion. I think that was the right lineup to go with, all things considered, and made the right substitutions when they mattered mostly. I'm going to give Busio a 6 because I thought he was bright and inventive and hardworking when he came on in that double pivot. So I think Pochettino mostly got it right. Although I think, with Ream's performance, we should reconsider that. And I think, with Weah coming back on the right wing, this is how I would line up personally against Jamaica at home. I'm going to give Pochettino an 8 for getting this important win. Substitutes were good. Lineup was mostly good too. This is how I would line up against Jamaica. Matt Turner, Joe Scally, Mark McKenzie, Austin Trusty, or Chris Richards. I don't know how sharp Chris Richards is. I'd probably give Trusty a chance. And then Anthony Robinson. My midfield trio would be Tessman and Busio in a double pivot if Johnny can't go. If Johnny can go, I would go Johnny and Tessman with McKennie at that, 8-10-ish sort of 4-3-3 box-to-box midfielder. Pulisic on the right, Tim Weah on the left, and of course, Ricardo Pepi up top. Thanks for watching, guys. Those are my thoughts. Take encouragement from this win because it was a good one and we deserve to celebrate it. We can hope for a better performance at home against Jamaica, but let's take the win. Let's take the positive. Have a great day. I'll see you guys on Monday.